Okay, awesome, everybody. Hey, if you're not in the room here and you're on Zoom, please, again, open up your camera so we can see you guys.
Yeah.
I had to put on a collared shirt.
I'm going on.
So.
You had to put on a collared shirt for
Collared
this?
shirt for this, so.
I got dressed up too.
Yep.
How about that?
Well done.
So speakers, Regina, depending on how comfortable you are, or whatever. Speakers are allowed to take their mask off, so that one, we can hear, and two, that you're not, you can breathe.
What do you want to do?
So up to you on what you want to do.
Yep. Or the law allows you to.
Yeah,
So, up to you.
yeah, totally perfect.
I also want everyone to see how pretty I am.
You are
For
so
sure,
pretty.
For sure. So.
So, number one, Alex is gonna join us in a little bit. He's finishing up a meeting with property management company. But if you don't know yet, this is Regina Very-Modesto. She's a buyer, she's a solo agent, sorry. She works with a lot of buyers, doesn't mean she doesn't have listings, but she is, she's killed it. And you just went on your own, what, like a year and a half ago, 2 years, has it been 2 years?
I got my license and I found out I was pregnant the same week.
Mhm.
And my son is 2.5 years old.
Wow.
So 3 years,
Yeah.
3-ish years.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
But with the kid, we had a little slowdown there,
Changed
Right.
my trajectory a little bit.
right? So but she has just been slamming it.
Yeah.
Working very hard, very hard.
Yeah. It's not, it's a really great person to have come and join us. We really thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank
Cool. Well, we were just chatting. So it's a really interesting conversation. And we don't need to rehash all of that, but getting your buyer, how do you get your buyers motivated to write a winning offer? Is it something that like you're on them from the first time you meet them, or do you let them learn a little bit on their own? Like, how do you handle that?
So it kind of depends, right? The first thing I always do is ask very difficult questions from the very first meeting. For example, how much money do you have? I don't really need to know like dollars and cents, like got $30 in my pocket and whatever, but I need to know what down payment you're making, what percentage, and then above and beyond that, how much extra cash you have on hand to put towards the home purchase. Because in our market over the last couple, and then I explained that, I was like, in our market over the last several months, it has been important to have extra cash reserves for above and beyond your purchase. And what do those cash reserves do? Those cash reserves give you the ability to have more flexibility with repairs. If, at the end of the day, the seller wants to make as much money as possible. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's what's probably going to happen. And so making your offer, making an offer that allows them to keep as much money as possible in their pocket is going to be key. So rather than saying, how do I get my clients into this house, it's adjusting expectations to get them into the house that their financial situation will allow them to proceed in.
That makes sense. So that means probably not always showing them the most expensive house they qualify.
Right.
Can everybody hear Kelly okay? Yeah, okay, just making sure. Thank you.
So in the height of things, maybe last February, March, we have a cyclical market, and things really spiked hard in February, March, when people would call me and I'd be talking to them like, okay, what were you pre-approved for? And they would say $500,000. Awesome, that's exciting. You should not look at a single property that costs more than $450,000.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
If their price points were even lower, so 500, I wouldn't really talk to anyone about an actual single family home below 400. Because at that point, you're really in the condo market where you can have more buying power and more flexibility.
Okay.
And again, this is only good information for right now.
Yeah.
It'll, obviously everything will change and adjust as the market changes and adjusts.
Well, and it also depends on what area they're in, right? Because we have some agents who work in Salem, And so that price point would.
I disagree, I just changed it, if the conversation's the same,
Yes,
just
the price
ratcheted
point,
down.
the price point changes.
Correct,
Yeah.
so when people say, I just got pre-approved for 350, that's so exciting, what condos are you looking at?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a
Yeah.
conversation about single family.
Right.
Right, where, so when you first got started and you were having those conversations, imagine like, they weren't as successful as they're now. It was like because you were just a little hesitant when you asked a question, or?
So I disagree, so I am painfully upfront to people. And throughout my sales career, I've sold things, I used to sell cosmetics, and after that I sold wholesale pork products. It's about asking the hard questions early on.
Yeah.
And not, they always say, don't be afraid to ask for the sale. Well, in our case, that means, do you want to write an offer on this house?
Mhm.
Are you going to work with me? Whereas, in cosmetics, it's how many mascaras you want.
Right. I guess what I kind of get is, like, I've seen a lot of people ask a question that may be a little invasive with hesitancy, and then the response is hesitancy. But if you ask the question with affirmatively, with confidence, then you're gonna get back, they're gonna say, this person needs that information to help me. But if you say, so this is kind of prying, but would you mind telling me how much money you have to put down? They're not gonna respond the same way. So you obviously tell them why you asked the question.
Yeah.
Helps too. But being confidence goes so far. Confidence is a
I always make a joke of like, this is a lot of information for our first date, but how
Yes.
much money you got?
right.
Yeah. Because you need to know at the end of the day, if someone's got enough money, they've got their 3% down, but then they only have like $5,000 or $6,000 left afterwards.
Sure.
As soon as you close on a house, that's when your tire's gonna blow.
Okay.
That's when you're gonna crack a tooth. You're
Yeah.
gonna need to do something else. So like, I personally don't wanna leave my clients with no cash reserves, because that's my personal beliefs.
Yeah.
However, it has served me well in many other aspects, because it gives you the ability to give your clients more realistic goals.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right too. In this market, they need to have that cash to either make a repair they're not gonna get done,
Right.
or possibly to cover a gap in the price.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. Let's start talking about getting offers accepted, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with Regina, because you're gonna talk about your methods to getting offers accepted, and then let's go over to Alex, and Alex, you can talk about what you're looking for in an acceptable offer, right?
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. So what, like when you're presenting an offer, when you're getting ready to present an offer for your clients, like what are your tactics, what are your tools?
First and foremost, I'm gonna call the seller's agent and find out what's the deal. That's what I tell my clients. I'm gonna call and find out what the deal is. But in reality, I'm going to call and build rapport with the seller's agent, so that either if they are willing to give more information than the average agent, I'm going to give as much as I can out of them. The honest answer is you really also need to know, does the seller need rent back?
Right.
Okay, we all, I shouldn't say this. Generally speaking, there are certain items on a contract that we're just not including. We're saying, we're not gonna ask for any repairs, If the house is 70 years old, that probably doesn't feel very comfortable for my clients. But if the house is 10 years old, odds are the roof is halfway through its life, HVAC is only halfway through its life.
Mhm.
All of the major systems are probably pretty okay. I would still encourage, I would never tell a client not to have an inspection done, but you can limit or say no repairs necessary. Appraisal gap coverage is always a massive concern. Now, like today in this market, I'm not seeing as many offers that I'm submitting against. So you might not necessarily, or if something's priced super well and you're only offering, $10,000 over list, it's much more realistic that you won't need a lot of appraisal gap coverage, but writing it in some fashion to make sure that the seller is going to get, again, that largest chunk of cash at the end. Those are the two main ones, of offering above list asking for no repairs, appraisal gap coverage, and rent back, as much rent back as they need for as free as it can be.
And your lender, like, are you pushing, your client comes to the table and they're different about a lender, do you push your own lender? And who is that lender?
Oh, I like to work with Olivia Paulson at Guild.
Mhm.
She has done my own home loan. But she also, what I like about Olivia is she knows what she doesn't know, and she's more than happy to send someone to a different person within her sphere. So that I really like.
I too use Guild, and I do it because I think a lot of people recognize the brand,
Mhm.
and then I think that there's a general perception that their brokers are good.
Well, and that conversation with the lender starts earlier. If your first conversation with the lender is before you put an offer in, you've done a bad job.
Mhm.
Because you wanna know, hey, I see this pre-approval for 450, what does that mean? Are they maxed out? Is that just where they wanna be? Because then you can have further conversations with your client of, well, if the lender says, well, this is just where they wanna be,
Mhm.
and then you're having a hard time matching properties for them, you can explain to them, this is what you're going to get at this price range. If you're wanting all of these other things that you're not finding, this is the price point you need to be at, and have that conversation with your lender.
So if I'm hearing you right, so, given market knowledge, right, so you wanna have some market knowledge, so you know what's necessary, but there's kind of a couple tools at your disposal. One is gap coverage for the mortgage and the appraisal, and then being aggressive with repairs or lack thereof, and then price.
Four things, yeah, that's how I say it. There are 4 things that make up a good offer. It's gonna be price, first and foremost, always. It's going to be making sure that price is guaranteed, appraisal gap coverage, being kind and generous with repair requests, and 4th is allowing them to rent it back as long as you can, generally speaking, 60 days max if you have length.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
Alex, so you got listings, how many listings do you have right now?
Well, most of them are pending,
Yeah.
thankfully. I signed contracts of active coming soon and pending, we might have 20, 25.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So what do you look for in an offer?
That's a great question. Communication from the buyer agent, unbelievably important. But there's a fine line to it. I don't want to be,
Yeah.
pestered.
Yeah.
But I appreciate someone working hard and checking in
Yeah.
and asking the right questions. We're all in sales. I like being sold. A good sales experience when you're on the buy side or you're being sold is fun, at least to me. So I appreciate calls from agents. Texts are fine. If you guys don't know these things, you can actually dial phone numbers and call people. So I would expect, when someone shows one of our listings and then I get a call or text saying, hey, what's the plan? Do you have an offer deadline? How many offers do you have on the table? Are there any insights that you can give me to help us win? I'm not telling, I don't think we're legally allowed to tell what their offers are.
Unless your client allows you to.
Only the
Unless,
seller,
yeah.
actually,
Yeah, and I don't ask the sellers for permission to do that.
Right.
So when someone asks, I say, well, I can't tell you, but we're over list price.
Right.
How far over list price are you?
Ah.
Hot or cold?
Yeah,
Play a game of hot or cold.
What
Yeah.
percentage?
that's a good question. What do you guys think about offer? Yeah.
My
Sure.
clients is hard limit is 525.
That'd be competitive.
Competitive, okay.
Yeah. So I'm not giving away details of it. If we got offers at 700,000 cash and someone's gonna offer 500, I'm gonna say, please don't waste your time. It's not gonna be competitive, just to be respectful, but I encourage everybody to write, quite frankly, so.
That's the hard part, isn't it? Like, I've had the conversation you're talking about 1,000 times, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to scare them off, but I want to get the best offer I can out of them, right? It's a fine line, right? Because you don't always know. What's hard about real estate is we're talking to their agent, And we hope their agent knows what they want,
Yeah,
and hope that that agent is driving the conversation or influencing this conversation based upon what they know the client wants, but we're kind of removed from the end negotiator, right? Like from the end of it, from the end of it, so we do some guessing, right? We're,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The, when the offer actually comes in, what am I looking for? Well, I want signed documents. That'd be helpful. A lot of times we get unsigned versions.
I can attest to that.
And now I have to go out and find the signed documents and ask.
Wait a
Yeah.
second, what do you mean? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Like a buyer agent might send the offer and say, hey, here, we're super excited to send you the offer. And I open up the PDF and it's the unsigned version of the offer.
Right.
Like they just sent, they attached the wrong
Wait,
file.
that's not a valid offer.
Yeah.
It's not a valid, you're right. Now I got to do more work. And I mean, look, mistakes happen. That's
Right.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm error proof or whatever, but the right document attached. I want an approval letter. I don't trust any approval letter that I get. I call every lender for every offer and I actually talk to the lenders and say, where are your buyers in the process? Have you met with them? Have you pulled credit? Have you verified income and assets, employment? Where's the money coming from?
Right.
We've run into approval letters where it says, yeah, they're approved, but it doesn't mention anything about a contingency, but then it comes forward that they have to sell a house and the contingency is not even in the offer too.
Right.
What really irks me, quite honestly, is all those little fillable fields in the offer where it says 3 business days or 5 business days or whatever.
But we don't need to fill those out.
If
I-
that's blank,
I don't even, quite honestly, it's okay for me to leave them blank, but what irks me personally is when it says 5 business days of standard and then someone's puts 8. Or like, I mean,
and doesn't call it out or just
well,
does
no, yeah, I just bothers me when they do it, quite honestly. I don't, it's, 3 business days for earnest money or whatever, I think, if you don't fill it in, right? And so when someone puts 7,
They're like, why?
Flags it, red flags.
yeah, like what's going on with that? Or the 5 business days for, I don't know, title insurance or something like that, or whatever it is, it's the second page of the thing. I don't like it when they change the numbers. I want the number, this is what is there. Let's use that.
What about if they put less, like on the inspection?
It's, yeah, faster for a seller, the faster the inspection contingency is removed, the better. From my experience, 99% of the sale fails happen inside of the inspection contingency. So as a seller, representing the seller, I'm telling them, we want to bust through this thing as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah.
How fast can you really do it though? I mean, if 10 business days is considered normal, and we won't use the word standard, but normal, then, I mean, an 8 business day inspection period, well, that's a 20% reduction. I mean, that's pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
And they got, everybody's gonna do radon, sewer, and
Right.
regular home
So it's
inspection.
like, do you already have it scheduled?
Yeah, I mean,
Brings up that question.
as a buyer agent, if they've already got a schedule and tentatively scheduled,
Mhm.
I mean, that speeds up the process a lot.
Right.
Sure.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Earnest money. Guys, if you learn anything from this, learn that earnest money is not monopoly money. It's not fake money. That stuff's serious. And I'll counter till my face is blue on earnest money. If someone puts $1,000 and we're selling a $450,000 house, that's not acceptable.
Right.
Somebody might be,
Skin in the game.
yeah, somebody may be getting a VA loan and, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. It shows me that maybe these people are not really qualified to buy the house. If you don't have more than $1,000 saved, I get a little bit nervous, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I would expect,
1 to 2%.
I'm looking for 3, quite honestly. When I bought a house, it was $600,000 and I put $20,000 down as earnest money. Because you're showing how earnest you are about the purchase.
Right.
I would counter though, however, when you're working with someone that does, like, when they only have $20,000 total,
Yeah,
that is, you're getting very close to not being able to service a wide majority of individuals house hunting.
yeah,
So I personally put the standard 1% down and then identify the rest in down payment.
sure.
Right.
Because But I also direct my clients to purchase appropriately priced homes for that level.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so if we're selling a $450,000 house and there's $4,500 of earnest money, and we have another offer that's 450, also the same amount, and someone's got $15,000 of earnest money, you can bet, as a listing agent, I'm pointing that out to a seller and saying, there's a difference here. You're more protected if someone gets to closing and just decides not to buy the house.
Right.
Because honestly, if they've packed up and moved and left and gone out of state,
Right.
and they only have $4,000 of earnest money as a claim, that's not enough.
Right.
How often does that happen?
It's rare,
Once in a blue.
but,
Yeah.
so the earnest money is the limit that the seller has for damages. So they're liquidating their damages at the time of accepting the offer, and they're gonna be capped at the amount of the earnest money. So if it's 1%, is that enough? 2%, is that enough? $1,000, not enough,
Yeah.
right? Because if they just it's easy to walk away from $1,000, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
easy. So you gotta think of it in a couple ways. What will somebody not walk away from? And then if things do get squirrely at the end and there is a dispute, what's an amount that's gonna be up there that's gonna be inconvenient for somebody to make them wanna come to close, or to
Right.
negotiate some sort of remedy to it, or that you'd wanna make it to keep hold of to make yourself right. So those things would be considered. A listing agent's gonna look at that stuff and consider it. And especially in a market like, I mean, the market's shifted a little bit, but it still is a seller's market. And all things being equal, those little differences can make the difference in your offer getting accepted or not accepted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we talked about price. Price is super important, obviously. When we have the 10 offers, 15 offers, if that happens, most of the time, quite honestly, the highest offer is not the one accepted.
Right.
From my experience, it's the terms. It's earnest money, size of down payment, how fast the inspection contingency is removed. Appraisal gap coverage is super important. Quite frankly, if we have a house listed at 500 and someone offers 575, you better have appraisal gap coverage, because it's not going to be considered.
Yeah.
If for my seller, I mean, if it's the only offer, yeah. But if we got a couple,
Yeah.
it's worthless to me.
Right.
And I'd rather go with a 525 offer that has $25,000 appraisal gap, because we're 3 weeks down the road, 3.5 weeks down the road. Sellers are packed, everything's in a U-Haul truck, and they're driving to the East Coast. And they get a call that the appraisal came in low. It's no good. It doesn't work.
Well,
So
you have to go back on the market.
guaranteed money is what we're
Right.
looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rent backs are weird because, I mean, every seller is different.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, even not in this market, in a buyer's market even, we like to negotiate for our sellers at minimum a day or two of possession after closing, just because there's a whole lot of stuff going on in the world and it's stressful to move and pack and get out. And so, packing your truck and driving out of the driveway before you actually have money in your pocket is a little stressful.
Right.
So a couple of days at a minimum, I think is a nice gesture if it's occupied. If it's not occupied, then you don't need it at all. The faster the close, the better for the seller.
But have that conversation with your lender before you guarantee any type
For
of
sure.
Yeah.
specific closing time.
Yeah, well, I think, Kelly, we were talking about it not too long ago. If an offer is accepted with a 30-day close and all the contingencies are removed, and then they don't close on the 30th day, who gets the earnest money?
It would depend on, I would think that the buyer would keep it because the buyer was unable to close. They weren't financially,
But they're still qualified.
yeah, but they weren't able to close. I think they would keep their earnest money.
Yeah.
So that's always, I've always.
Are you assuming that the deal's done and not going to continue forward and close on the 31st day?
I mean, what
Are you
if
making that assumption?
the buyer says, well, I'm not going to do an extension?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think you could run into an issue with that. But the crux of it is, if the last day comes and the money's not available, then they're not qualified. So they would get the money back. And so, but the seller can then cancel the sale too. But-
Yeah,
But the economics of that, usually they're still the closest person to closing.
yeah,
And unfortunately, it's difficult to get any more money out of them without making the loan string out even further.
Yeah.
Because, hey, look, you didn't hit your date, there should be a penalty for that. is beyond, and I should still get to study the house, you know, so like, it's not my fault that your lender couldn't get it done in 30 days, you know?
Right.
It'd be nice if there would be somehow to make the seller a little bit more whole with that, but doing that kind of sets the whole loan, starts the whole loan all over again, because you gotta rename all the terms.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
You could draw the closing out even further, making it even more complicated, so.
It's a bad situation to be
It's a
in.
bad situation.
Yeah. The,
we gotta ask another
Yeah,
clarification. Are you saying that it doesn't close on day 30, but there's been communication that it's gonna close on day 31? Are you saying that the seller or the buyer should be penalized for that extra day?
no, no,
That-
I don't think.
I don't
yeah.
understand what
I mean,
this
so I
conversation is about
think,
then.
so I guess my point on that is like, yeah, if you're moving forward and everybody's being earnest and you're getting information on a timeline, it's like a week before, you know you're not gonna get that thing, right? They still, even a week before, right, even if a seller knew a week before, they've already set up plans to move. And now they've probably gotta change those plans, they could cost some money to change those plans.
Correct.
And so they should, in my mind, and where I think my right, wrong live inside of me, feel like the seller should have to bear the brunt of that. They always do. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I see.
like your people messed up and now I gotta like move, I gotta change all my plans. I gotta get a pod now instead of moving directly into my house,
Right, because you can't close on that one, so
Okay.
there's some closers.
whatever it is. So I
I
just
think
think,
where it come into play on that is like, did the buyer actually get all the information over to you when you're on time? Is that what the delay is?
Or is the
Did
lender just being a
underwriting-
douche?
Right.
right,
Did underwriting call for something that we're now having an issue
Yeah.
with?
right. So
And the
what's
buyer's
the,
not like.
and what's even all the information? It could be, it's entirely, it could be not the buyer's fault, except for they hired the wrong person for the job. And they should be, and I think they should be held accountable for that. They're not in our current way, or the way our system works, they're not. And that is just what it is.
On the two other pieces on the seller side, the stuff about, hey, we're not gonna ask for repairs, or we're not gonna ask for repairs that cost under this, or we're not gonna ask for repairs that cost under this per item, that kind of stuff, when I see it, I mean, that's awesome sentiment, we appreciate it. I follow that when I'm talking to the sellers, I follow that up with, it has no teeth. And they can change their mind, lickety split. And in every time I've seen that language, there's always been something, a concession of some kind. We can't hold them to it, so
Right.
don't put any value.
Yeah, I've seen that thing written 1,000 different ways, and I haven't seen one. And that's why we don't have a term for it. I haven't coined a term, we haven't created an addendum for it, because I just honestly haven't found one that I think is enforceable.
Yeah,
That it isn't, I mean, people do it all the time where you can read it one way, it could just mean, you're not even expecting property.
yeah,
Right, and in other ways, it could just be meant to be a value, and we've even seen disputes over, you know, there was the one that happened in the company here where the buyer's agent got a bid that threw it over the threshold, and then, the seller agreed to do it, and then once the work was done, it was well below the threshold, and there was just like, you know, tit for tat, like what do we do? And so anyways,
yeah, well, I mean, because if there's crawl space work and the buyer says, I'm not gonna ask for anything under $5,000, and the buyer goes out and gets a bid and in a crawl, I mean, they can say, hey, make it a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
And so the bid comes in at 8.
Right,
And then as a listing agent, I go out and get a bid and it comes in at 3.
right,
Now we're fighting over something, and so it's complicated.
right,
More valuable to me than, hey, we're not gonna ask for anything under X amount, is we're gonna order the appraisal on day 2, or 1, or 3.
right, appraisal before we finish.
We're gonna order the appraisal right away. Because now the buyer's paid $750, $1,000 to do an appraisal.
That's the skin in the game.
And we're getting ahead of the process, so we're not gonna have an
Right.
issue 1 week before closing, hypothetically,
Right.
on the appraisal if it comes in low. That's more valuable to me.
Yeah.
As a listing agent, and I communicate that to sellers when I see it, I say, this is good.
Right.
I like this. They're spending more money here.
I also think this goes back to buyer education when dealing, because I tell the clients, I was like, a house is supposed to do 3 things: keep you dry, keep you warm, and have a place to poop. And if you can't, if those 3 things are not happening, those are the 3 biggest deals to people: HVAC, roofing, and sewer lines. Those are the 3 basic concepts of the home. So let's be as forgiving in other aspects of a home inspection as we can to make sure that those 3 basic issues are important. And again, this is a conversation that's the conversation I have with people that are in like the 450, 400 range.
Mhm.
When I'm talking to someone at like the $900,000 range, it's a completely different conversation.
Right.
Because their expectations of $1 million home are different.
Yeah. I found in the upper price points, people tend to be more reasonable as well, because it's not their first house.
Right.
Or way shittier than
Right.
or they're much more upset about that one
Yeah.
GFCI that doesn't
Yeah.
trip properly.
Right.
I
Cause I
can't,
paid $1 million and it all better work.
yeah, well, I can't tell you how many times a repair addendum's come in and the seller gets pissed about it.
Yeah.
They're aggravated.
Yeah.
And the offer may be $60,000 over the list price.
Yeah.
And I say, guys, if you do everything on this list, it's $3,000.
And you're still getting.
You're $57,000 ahead.
Right.
And they're upset about it, and it doesn't make any sense. There's greed out there in
Yes.
the world, and the sellers see it, and the dollar signs are blinking out of their eyes, and it's really frustrating
Yeah.
because it's a reasonable stuff generally.
So what I do on that is, it's a conversation I have with my sellers. The minute we get the offer, we start evaluating offers, it's like, let's look at the offer. Let's
Yeah,
look at the entire offer, right? We can't just don't let's not just zoom in on price or one single term that fits it. Like, let's look at the offer as a whole. So that way, hopefully down the line, when that repair addendum comes in, you're kind of like, hey, don't put the baby out with the bathwater. It's still a really good deal. Let's actually look at this and see if it makes sense to continue forward with this buyer. So.
yeah, well, if the stuff isn't fixed, it's not like it just magically disappears. The
Right.
next buyer's gonna come up
Same,
with it.
same issue.
They may not be as aggressive on repair denim.
Yeah.
But the next buyer may be more aggressive on repair
For
denim.
sure.
And their price might be half of
Well, they may not have the same
Right
leverage they
on
had
that
before
amount
because they've
over.
already
Yeah.
sold them. So.
I would also say it kind of depends upon what the issues are and what the concerns are. So for example, I had a sale fail because a client, it was an 80-year-old home. There was a laundry list of things that I expected to see in an 80-year-old home. This guy freaked out.
Mhm.
And one of the items that were not on his list is, how do you get the floor stop squeaking? I was like, you
It's an
don't.
80-year-old
Brand new
You
home.
don't. And so I was perfectly happy to help him cancel that transaction. However, the conversation then, I told him, I was like, you don't need to look at any houses built before. And then he interrupted me and he said 2000. I said, no, absolutely not, because something that was built in 2000 has a 20-year-old roof and a 20-year-old furnace and a 20-year-old, and 20 years is gonna be the cap on all of those things that were built in that year, because that's how long they put those items in for. And so I told him, I said, you don't get to buy anything that was built prior to 2015,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, repair denims is a second tier negotiation. Sellers, what I tell them is that 99 out of 100 deals will have a repair addendum or a concession of some type. Working with sellers, a credit or a price reduction in lieu of repairs is a bajillion times better. And I can sell more credits than dealing with repairs. You buyers are gonna get a better deal asking for a credit. If they already have a closing cost credit rolled in, purchase price reduction amortized out over 30 years isn't as exciting for a seller or for a buyer, but they're gonna get more money for it than if we actually do the repairs. So, I mean, it depends, but a credit or a price reduction is way better. And the seller will be more willing to do that if they don't have to deal with choreographing the work.
That's also part of the conversation with your lender in the beginning, is how much closing costs is my client going to be on the line for, so that I know that if something comes up and it's, they only have $8,000 in closing costs, well, if something comes up and it's 10 grand, I'm not gonna ask. I can't ask for more than their closing costs.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
having that idea in your head, so if something big comes up, you know that
For sure.
it probably needs to be fixed rather than credited.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so, name of this class was, and this is gold, but I took this off in a direction earlier because I thought it's helpful to get here. So, Alex, you got,
Peter Junior.
he's working, and he's on me, yeah,
Oh,
right?
yeah, he over here.
So, Alex, it's Thursday and you just got an offer on the property, you've got showings booked out, and you're like, we're gonna have multiple offers on this. let's set a deadline, like, what's in your mind, like, is there a point where you decide to set the deadline, and as an agent, how do you handle the buyer's agents when they call you those questions?
So, I mean, a year ago, we were setting a deadline before going to market.
Yeah.
And it was just there.
Yeah.
Today, I'm not comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
Because it might get multiple offers or it might not.
Mhm.
In a couple of listings lately, it took a couple weeks to get an offer.
You could be scaring people off.
Yeah,
Because
and-
buyers are scared.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. You write an offer and all of a sudden now it's, well, we're gonna create a deadline, but that's what we do.
Mhm.
If an offer comes in and it's fast, I expect an offer, if I get it on a Thursday, then the expiration is gonna be Friday, sometime in the afternoon or evening.
Mhm.
Or if it comes in Saturday, then it's Sunday. The next day, sellers have to be able to sleep on an offer. If you get an offer to me at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm not gonna be able to respond to you at 5 o'clock that day because people like to sleep on stuff. I call the sellers, present the offer and say, we have 32 showings booked and there's one offer and 6 people have already seen it in 20 minutes. We have 3 options. We can respond to the offer before it expires. We can set an offer deadline, or we can just wait and see what happens and reconnect right before this offer expires. And oftentimes they say, let's do that. And then a couple more showings happen. And if a second offer comes in, it makes my job a lot easier because I can call and say, gosh, I'm so sorry. Would have never figured, but we got a second offer on the house. And now because we've got a second offer, we've created an offer deadline. And I'm setting offer deadlines of Sunday night. I realize that a lot of people say, why are you doing it Sunday night? Can't you do it Monday? Well, if I do it Monday, and then I respond on Monday, well, I guess if it's Monday, then I'm gonna respond on Tuesday, and so, I don't know, I like to have it done, I like to have it done Sunday night, and then we're responding to people
Monday.
halfway through the day on Monday.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have the deadline expire Monday.
Which is nice, because I have all day Sunday to
Yeah.
get things done.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting at my desk at 9 o'clock putting offers in, Alex.
Right?
If once you set that deadline, what happens to your offer?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you expect to get offers all weekend, or do you think you expect to
Yeah.
get the deadline?
I mean, it's super hit or miss right now. I mean, you know, we just listed a home for $1 million in Boring. And it had been sitting on the market for 3 months with someone else. And we got an offer within 24 hours over this price. And a
But
second
you're
offer.
Such a badass now.
And a second offer, like the same day too. So we ended up with 2 offers on that had been, you know, so sellers like, we're gonna take one of these because we're tired of waiting.
Yeah.
We're already waiting for
Right,
it.
right, right.
You know, we got an offer and then some sellers decided that they want to play the game a little bit. And it was super aggravating because it was clear that this was a unbelievable offer and they should probably take it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the offer went over.
Yep.
And I mean, it's,
How do you say I told you so in a professional?
well,
Right.
I told you so.
Mhm.
That's what I literally do when people are like, I've had clients that want to write ridiculous offers. No, I just want to see if I'll get it at list. I just want to see. I'm like, well, you're not going to, but I'll write it up because it'll take me 15 minutes.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we work for people, but that might be the only offer you write for them potentially because they may be unreasonable. This last year has shown that we also have a say in who we work with. And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not a good, this isn't gonna be a good fit.
Right.
And that's okay to say. But yeah, if a seller says, Alex, I want to accept an offer after we've established a deadline, I'll push back on the seller and say, guys, look, I told a lot of people this.
Yeah.
And people are counting on this.
Yeah.
Nothing's going away. We have a plan, let's stick to the plan.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably aggravating to me when a seller wants to change the plan.
Yeah, it makes you look bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's
Yeah.
right. So Regina, you've just showed a house. It's Friday at 6 o'clock at night. There's a deadline Monday for you.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Thank you.
Your clients call you at 9:30 Friday night, and you're like, we want this house, Regina, get us this house. What's your strategy? Like, if beyond what we've already talked about, like, when do you write it, when do you present it?
Oh, I have no problem being the first offer.
But they've already set the deadline, they already got one offer, two offers. You just keep.
I'll write it up, well, maybe I'll probably wait.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, wait until it's convenient for me, but like, yeah, you can only do what you can do, and your client, if you've gotten to this point, you know your client's limits. And whether or not those limits are going to win them the offer, they've decided that this is what they wanna do, and I have probably canceled them. This is not going to get you what you want, or it is. And either way, it doesn't matter what time I submit the offer, because it is what it is.
You're presenting the best.
Yeah, I do not like escalation clauses, because I think they're shitty, because it says, I really like this house, and this is how much I want to spend. Unless this guy's gonna outbid me, in which case I'll spend more. No, you have to identify how much you're willing to spend on a house, and that is how much you have to be happy with winning or happy with losing.
Right.
If you're happy losing by $5,000, then that's your limit. If you're mad about losing by $5,000, then increase your offer.
Right.
But that's what you have to be happy with.
What's great about this is like we like littered with experience and great ideas, and they all work and they're all different to some degree, which is amazing, right? So we all have different ways to work on this and stuff. And so I love your approach and just like put your best foot forward. I love escalation clause personally.
Well, escalation clauses only work if they're going to be large enough to make a difference.
For sure, right? And I never do that 2,500 or
Yeah,
1,000. I'm always like 5, 10, whatever.
It has
price
to be
point.
enough to make an
Totally.
impact. And if there's such a difference between what you're willing to pay and what you're actually willing to pay, then we're not doing a good job.
Right. For
Right.
sure.
We're
Like if
not,
you're doing an offer, the house is 400, you're doing an offer at 450, but you're willing to go to 5.
yeah,
Right.
and why don't we go look at
What
houses
the
that are
heck?
450?
Right.
What are we doing here?
From what I've seen as a listing agent, that the moment I set that deadline, I get no more offers until, not always, but almost always until right before the deadline's up.
Depends upon how much information you're willing to give out.
True. I think that, and I think that gets my clients nervous sometimes, which is fine, I set them up for it, I let them know, like, hey, we might get an offer to you before the deadline, we may not get offers before the deadline, we may not get another offer, but I would expect if we're going to get more offers, they're more likely to come just before the end of the
5
deadline.
minutes.
Yeah, as before, between now and then, and that actually makes everybody a little uneasy, that little dead period there can
Yep.
really be like, is this all we're gonna get now? Like, I hope we get more. So that's why, once I get that first offer, I at least wanna have a really, really good idea that we're getting a second before saying the deadline, because it can scare people away, it can scare buyers away. And so,
Yeah, you could lose both those first offers that
and
you
you
got.
could lose both first offers, you don't typically, but you could. It's always good to know what else you're competing against and make sure there's not something else that's gonna come on the market, or something that has come on the market that's more attractive than yours and their offers above that one.
Right.
But as a buyer's agent, I've always been sending it at the last minute, because my offer is gonna be what my offer is gonna be. I don't want my offer to be shocked, and I also do want the seller kind of going, we get another offer, like, and hopefully mine's the best one, right? So they'll be really happy to see it on Monday morning or Sunday night, as opposed to getting it Saturday night and be like, you get some unscrupulous listing agents like, yeah, if you can beat Kelly's offer at 775, you got it, right? So that's why I'm always hesitant to send it over to the last one, because I don't trust room service.
So, but it also depends on the agent, right?
Yeah.
So I was the very first person in the home when it came on the market on Thursday. And we wrote an offer that day. We sent it over, there was no deadline. I created a relationship with the agent on the other side, called right away, created a little bit of rapport, and then she tells me, well, we're gonna do a deadline now. And I was like, oh, my buyer's gonna be so disappointed, because we've been doing this since May, right? And that, like, I don't know, it triggered something on this agent. She's like, oh, I totally get it, I'm sorry, but you know, this is what we're gonna do, so I'll change it. But because we were the very first people in the house, we were the very first people who wrote the offer, she promised me that she would keep in touch with me on what was happening. And at the very last minute, we would be able to come back in and change our offer if we needed to. And she kept to that, and I actually ended up pulling every single bit of information I needed to know about and it didn't take much, right? But I got what I needed to know, like full details and what little tiny tweak we needed to do on our offer, and we got it. And my buyers think I'm like completely and totally amazing. And they lost out on multiple offers because they wouldn't listen to me about what they needed to win, and now they finally did. And because of the relationship, we did it. That was first one right out the chute, but it also depends on the agent on the other side, right? Because you could have someone on the other side that's just gonna be like, yay, now we can hold this offer, and it was a very, very strong offer, right? Anybody else comes in, well, you gotta be over, 30,000 over, 50,000 over. And we wouldn't have. It's competing against it.
It is tough on the listing side. I believe the imagination is a powerful tool. And I don't like the idea of telling people what the offers are, even with seller approval.
Right.
Because now I said, well, here's
Right.
something to beat. Well, where they could write 50,000 over whatever I have,
Right,
if they really think that it's gone up that far.
yeah,
We had a listing in Southeast and we had an offer on 25,000 over. And somebody came in with an offer 95,000 over the list price. So there's $70,000 difference there.
yeah.
And if I would have said, yeah, we're 25 over, they might have
Then
wrote
they're
for
gonna
30
get
over, 35
Right,
over.
right.
It's
We
really
like
tough.
to train our agents that asking for that information and trying to get as much information as you can out of the other side,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
But when you're on the listing side, don't give away anything.
yeah.
Last time we had a hot market, it was like 15, 16, 17, 16, 17, more
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah,
And some people were setting offer deadlines at that point. And the industry's made that the kind of commonplace, so you have to do it. But I actually love not setting, like we wouldn't set it. And we would just say, this a buyer's agent would call, do you have offers? Yeah, I got a couple.
Yep.
What are you gonna review? We're looking at that.
Right,
Well, what's gonna win? The best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When are you gonna do it? Anytime.
as they come in,
Could be now, could be tomorrow, could wait, I don't know.
Yeah.
We build that rush, we build that fever, like that fever for the property, and we would get people just like snap to the top of crazy offers. Because but now, I think it's changed, I don't think you can do that anymore, I think that the deadline's become so, that I guess you could do it, you
so it's almost
just,
expected that every single listing has to have a.
right, and it would just, I just think that you would try, your name would probably get sullied from doing it too much, I think, right? But I thought it was a great, like that unknown, like you were saying, was really powerful.
How do you guys feel, everybody, about the ones that say there's a deadline on Monday at 5 PM? However, the seller reserves the right to accept any offer at any time.
Means you just write an offer with 24-hour expiration. time
Right.
on it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
Take
write-
it or don't.
That's
I've got other
right.
houses to go look at.
That's right.
it's really saying nothing, right? Like, we're setting a deadline, but we're not actually.
But we're not dead.
We're not actually.
But we're not.
even if, I mean, hypothetically, even if you set a deadline, the seller can
They
change their
can.
mind.
Right,
And it's stupid and they shouldn't, but they can. I had a seller do it and I was really pissed at the sellers and made it known. And a bunch of people were pissed at me
Yeah.
right.
and
Oh, for
made it
sure.
known. And, the transaction was weird the
Yeah.
whole
Well-
time because of it.
And then too, like Kelly likes to wait till the last minute. He showed his buyers on Friday
Yeah,
and he's waiting and expecting
Mhm.
to send his offer over at 4 o'clock on Monday because your deadline's at 5. And then your seller goes and accepts the offer Saturday.
yeah,
My cash offer was 10%
And now you're
last
like,
yeah.
and then your buyers are gonna come back to you and go, well, what the hell?
That
Why didn't
happened.
we
I have a
present it?"
fantastic story on that. I think I talked to you about it. I think you were on board.
Yeah.
We had a listing in Tigard at 475 and someone wrote for 500 and we had set an offer deadline and they were so enthralled with that offer that they wanted to take it. And I said, guys, this is a mistake. Don't do this. Please don't do it. I was begging them not to do it. And they did. So they took the offer. And we didn't have any other offers at the time. And it was Sunday morning or something like that. So it had been a couple of days, but they got too nervous and they reneged on what they had told us the plan was gonna be. 30 minutes after I had sent the accepted offer, we got an offer that was cash, 50,000 higher than what we had accepted. No appraisal, and they waived the inspection.
Oh.
Did you present it?
I had to.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah,
they?
you have to
Can you,
present
can
every
you,
after.
I got that offer and I don't think I've ever felt so sick in my life because
Yeah.
Did they cry?
I was sick to my stomach about it. 50,000 more, no inspection, no appraisal, where the other guys had that whole thing. And
Mhm.
you know what? The first call, they were fine. They're like, we knew it was a risk and that's okay. Thank you for telling us. And about 6 days later, the wife called and her tone was different.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they realized they
They made
screwed
a
up.
big difference.
I mean, it's
And
a
they
life
wouldn't budge,
altering amount,
and they
50,000.
probably didn't budge on anything on.
No, we had them in backup.
Backup?
Yeah. And they didn't ask for repairs and it closed.
Are we closed on it?
Yeah, it closed.
So the first people at the 500 got it.
No. Yeah,
The first people.
Yeah.
Yeah, instant equity.
Instant equity.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I make sure to tell
So it's all
sellers
like, it's
that
counseling
story.
and then,
Yeah.
having
This is-
stories to tell them.
This is what can happen if you
For sure.
renege
Right.
on your commitment.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I've also started telling buyers to start looking for homes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So like it went, so this was what I was telling them back last spring, and then things got so intense that nothing was making it past the weekend. So, but now I'm back to, we're not gonna look at houses unless it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's no point. Let's see what makes it through the weekend.
Right.
Those sellers are gonna have much different thought process.
Yeah.
Most homes are going on the market Thursdays, right?
We list
I
on
really
Thursday.
see.
We'll do it
Thursdays.
Friday if we have to.
Hey, I don't like Friday, but yeah, you have to Friday, but Thursdays.
Yeah.
Wednesday just feels too far out
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the weekend.
I had a seller one time, it was a good friend, and he was like, I want to get my house on the market this one Wednesday. I was like, well, I'm telling you, Brad, Thursday's the day. No, let's just do it. Well, Brad, if we get an offer, I'm like, let's do it. So get the offer, Friday night, get it, we put it on Wednesday. Friday morning, we get the offer, expires Saturday, we still had a ton of showings set up, and he just couldn't wait, he's just like, I can't lose the offer. I'm like, we can do better, Brad, wait. When you move the timeline forward, it really, because Saturday and Sunday is where most of your showings happen, so that person who's stuck in on Friday morning got a great deal on that house,
Yeah.
because they were there, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I also do think that like there's a lot of, it's easy for us to think $100,000 here. It's just $100,000. Just change your offer. Oh, duh.
$6 a month.
It's fine, whatever, I don't care. Well, one of the things that I have become very aware of recently is that real estate really affects the way you think about money, because it's not real money, it's just dollars.
So true.
It's just zeros and ones and fives on a contract. But you have to continue to think about what that means for your clients as far as like timing wise. That's why I always ask, okay, this is what you have for your down payment. How much extra cash do you have? Because I don't want you, if you have enough extra cash to make these things not problems, stop finding them to be problems in houses you live at.
Right.
Let's readjust our thought process, you don't like the fact that everything's silver in this house. Well, it will take you 3 months of saving to make everything not silver in this house now. Whatever, find the thing or whatever the stumbling block to getting a client to really go all in on a particular house where they can be competitive and help them reimagine what those things look like. I would also encourage you to identify how much things cost, like understanding and knowing what a sewer line costs to be redone, knowing what it costs to generally average to have a roof redone. I personally have done a lot of work on my own home, and so I know the costs associated with having asbestos-filled lath and plaster removed.
Oh, yeah.
$6,000 per room. But like just those little depending upon what part of town you work in. I live and work a lot in North Portland and Northeast Portland, so it's important for me to have a really good understanding of what lath and plaster is, why is it different, you know, all of these things about the home, so that when you're talking to your clients about what an offer should look like and how they can budget to change things later down the road. So that my goal is to get them into a house that hits as many of the things they told me are important as possible, and then explain to them how they can make changes and adjustments later based on their budget and their timeline.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
I just wanna this besides the terms of the offer, one thing you both said that you do to win and to accept is you love that communication and professionalism. You know, so like, make sure you're presenting your offer without typos, with signatures.
Yeah.
With, you know, with terms that are acceptable, but get on the phone and make that connection with the other party,
Yeah.
because you can set a tone.
Verbal conversation.
Yeah, you can set a tone of professionalism that makes it so you're more known quantity.
Also asking how much information the seller's agent feels comfortable receiving about the client.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, that's
you know,
fine.
we're not supposed to, love letters are extant as of January 1st, 2022. I have already started not including them.
Yeah.
To get into the habit. However, I had a seller's agent tell me that they would be happy to see a love letter, and I said, well, no, won't be doing that, but I will give you a lovely paragraph about my
Okay.
clients and
Where they work.
yeah, why this house in this location is important.
So stupid.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so stupid. Like, if your client sends you, and then you copy and paste, and instead of being from your client, you put from Regina.
Yeah.
That's legal?
Right.
This is stupid.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, so we have less than no minutes left, but I just,
Questions,
Questions?
right? Does anybody have any questions? I do. Excellent.
Where do you, or who gets the appraisal gap coverage?
I'm sorry, more clarification
The
on it?
appraisal gap coverage that you talked about?
The seller makes that, or the buyer makes that.
so it's a term, it's not really a couple of
Not
I'll let me-
things.
insurance coverage.
I'll explain the way I explain to clients. So when you purchase a home, the bank is going to ask a third party to go guarantee that the home is worth what you're willing to pay for it. If the home is listed at $450 and you're paying $500, there is the assumption that we make when we put a home on the market, when we've done all of our research, that the home will appraise for the price it is listed at. That is our assumption. However, if you're offering $20,000 or $50,000 more than it's listed at, there is a possibility that the appraiser is going to come in and say that it is not worth the $500,000. So there is a gap between what the bank is willing to give you and what you've offered to pay. So that difference, that gap, is cash on hand that a buyer needs to have.
In this part.
It's not gap coverage like auto.
You know, there's no insurance to buy.
Okay,
It's referred to as
sorry.
there's appraisal insurance or gap
Yeah,
coverage.
so, yeah,
I need to have that.
so if the home, if you're offering to pay $500,
Not necessarily.
the appraiser comes back and says it's only worth $475, there's a $25,000 difference.
Right.
In the before times, it would probably be a conversation of, well, do we split it? Will the
Right.
buyer absorb it? Will the seller absorb it? That is a spot of communication and transaction coordination that we can come to an agreement. Now it's not.
No.
So it is assumed that the buyer will absorb that.
A really elegant and smart man wrote an addendum. It's called the appraisal addendum.
That'd be Kelly.
Oh, I wrote that. Anyways, and you can use that in concert with your offer, and it's really, because just like gap coverage of $10,000 isn't actually a legal term, you can really enforce, everybody knows what it means, but it's not specific enough. If you use that addendum, that'll be.
The other thing that you wanna do is you wanna have your clients talk to their lender about their options and what they can do with their financing to adjust if there is a gap. Because sometimes they can change it up by their MIP.
Yeah, like let's say what if the half down, maybe you only represent 20, so they can keep that cash or whatever to adjust. So,
I see. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
That's all, yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, I just got one more thing I want to ask both of you, I know you guys are tight on time, I appreciate you guys being here, this
So
has been really, really
appreciate
great. Okay, this is off topic, so I'll put you on the spot, we've got these agents, they're probably just hanging on every word you say, one piece of advice for them, go. One piece of advice.
Go talk to strangers.
Good.
Talk to strangers at the coffee shop, at the grocery store,
Waiting in line.
make comments about like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 oh my goodness. Oh, those shoes are cute, those are great, oh, thanks, yeah, I know, they're really comfortable because I'm running around for work. Oh, what do you do? I'm a real estate agent. Oh, here's my card.
Boom.
Conversation, one little tiny thing, I tell them all the time, I'm probably tired of you saying it. One little tiny thing in your conversation that gears towards something that is related to real estate without saying, I'm a realtor.
Oh, I just say.
That, Chris would do that as, but if you're not comfortable, right, or you wanna gear it towards that, it works. It always comes back to,
I
what they ask you.
I also have, in the midst of like trying to build my business up and kind of get that momentum going, I reached out to all of my friends and acquaintances, people that I knew vaguely, that I would see at parties, but didn't like really connect with. I would make it a point to go through and connect with each of them and have coffee or coffee and a donut. Like there were points, so right before I had my son when I was super pregnant, there were points where I would have like 3 or 4 dates a week with folks. There were sometimes I would have coffee and a lunch date with people just because one is just a nice way to like be a good human being and like really emphasize and, you know, create a really nice life for yourself if having friends is something you like. But also like it's conversations, people always like want to know what's going on. How's COVID been for you? How's the last 18 months been for you? I've been really locked down, but I've been working really hard. I was able to get 30 families into homes this year. Those are conversations that I have.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I'll build on that conversations, but I'll give a very important number. You need to talk to 20 people 5 times a week. So 100 people a week, and you need to either ask for business or ask for a referral in those 100 conversations. Every 20 conversations you have, you will either get, on average, a referral or an appointment. And so if you do that 5 times, that's 5 appointments or referrals a week. And 4 of those will actually turn into real appointments, of which you'll list or get a buyer broker agreement from 3, and 1.5 to 2 of those people will actually close in the next 12 months. It's as simple as that. If you're not picking up the phone and calling people, then
It's as simple as that.
it's as simple as that.
And you know, a really great place to track that, Command.
Command.
And it'll tell you your appointments and your contracts and your contacts and how many you close.
20 a day.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. And then if you want to share this with anybody else, it's gonna get uploaded. Austin, you can stop recording. It'll get uploaded to our